Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly Podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lifford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner Podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. This week, we talk a little bit about garage ceilings. You know, they really take a lot of abuse because of all of the elements. It's not heated. It's not cooled. A lot of expansion and contraction. They can start looking pretty bad. We have some tips on making sure you don't have a problem with your garage ceiling. Also, if you have a bathroom, you have a mirror, a lot of times desilvering can take place. Do you really have to replace the entire mirror, or are there other options? We'll talk about that. Canvas awnings, extremely popular, but boy, they can really get dirty, but you have to be careful in cleaning them so that you're not replacing them after a little bit of cleaning. Drainage problems. It's been raining all over the country. A lot of people are concerned about drainage in their yards. There's some really simple ways of correcting that. We'll share some ideas with you on that. And one of the most frustrating things around a home, if you're standing there at the sink waiting for hot water, can you really speed it up a little bit? You absolutely can. Several different ways. Joe, what about a simple solution for us?
Well, Danny, whenever you're working around a shop or in the garage and you drop a small part, it is always a little hard to find it, but I've got a simple solution how to retrieve that part using a vacuum.
I'll definitely be listening to that because that happens. They drop, they bounce, and you never know where those things end up there.
That's right.
We'll be able to share that with you. All right, let's get started. Let's head north a little bit to Michigan. Deborah's on the line right now. Deborah, welcome to the Today's Homeowner Radio Show.
Thank you so much for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Oh, our pleasure. And we just want to see if we can give you something to think about and some things to try to solve this problem in your garage. But tell everybody about what's happening there in the garage.
Okay, I just came out there one day and I looked up and I'm like, ooh, it looks like my ceiling is falling. So it's only in certain areas and then the paint is chipping in some areas, but I guess where the tape is coming down. And I'm afraid I may go out there one day and the whole ceiling will be caved in. So someone told me it's the moisture, because I'm in Michigan, of course, and they say it's the hot and cold air combination that's in there. I don't know. I did have the roof inspected, and they said that it's not leaking, so I don't know what's going on.
Well, it is exactly that, and it's one of those things that plague a lot of people in a lot of different parts of the country with that excessive moisture that you have in the garage because there's no air conditioning, no heating, and,
right.
You know, when you have that, of course, you mentioned an important part, too, with hot and cold and the condensation that can go along with that can add even more moisture to it. First of all, good that you don't have a leak because that would have been the first thing that we would want to look at.
Right.
And one of the things, I know somebody that lived right down on the water and they had a really bad problem with it. And I'll tell you how they solved it is by simply installing an exhaust fan. They have these fans that you can put in a window or you can cut a section in the wall. And they have on it a humidistat. So whenever that humidity in that area gets to a certain level, the fan cuts on and then it'll blow that air out, which in turn pulls air in and around, cracks in the door or anywhere that they can. And it just, the movement of air in itself prevents any of that damage that can come along with that excessive moisture. Now, some walls are easier to put a fan in there than others, and the fans are not very expensive, but most of them have louvers on the outside so that when the fan kicks on, it opens up. When the fan turns off, it closes back down. And a really simple way of solving that problem, but I would suggest something along those lines before, you do any of the repairs on the ceiling. Joe, this is something we've dealt with a lot. Any other suggestions you might have?
Yeah, Deborah, I looked at those photographs you sent, and thanks for doing that. That helps a lot. And the fact that the fact that the tape is pulling away and the paint is peeling doesn't necessarily mean the drywall on the ceiling's falling down. I mean, unless you see it bowing down or hanging down or anything like that, it's chances are that the drywall's firmly attached. It just sounds like between the heat and the cold and the moisture that the paint's failing, and with all that moisture, the tape might fail. And those are easy fixes. You can scrape off the paint and prime and repaint, and the tape can be redone. So as long as the drywall is firmly attached, and it certainly looks like it is, it's not sagging down, then it's not an issue. If it is, the simplest solution, what I would do if it was my garage, I would just screw 1x3s or 1x4s across the ceiling, perpendicular to the joist, spaced about 4 feet apart. You can paint them so they blend in with the ceiling, and that would hold up the drywall if that was an issue. I mean, you wouldn't do that in your living room, but in a garage, that'd be a lot cheaper than pulling down that sheetrock and putting the drywall and putting up more drywall, or trying to fix the drywall that's sagging down. But I'm not sure that that's really the issue. I think it's more of just the paint's peeling and the joint, the tape in the joints has loosened up.
Okay, so you said 1x3 or 1x4 instead of trying to tear the whole ceiling down?
Yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah, just space them 4 feet apart. Get as long a piece as you can get, and screw them. Make sure, obviously, you screw them directly into the underside of the joist, and that'll hold up the sheetrock.
Okay, wonderful.
If it does start to sag down.
Good.
All right.
Good information. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hey, our pleasure, Deborah, and hope you have a great weekend.
You too.
It's time for our Best New Product segment, brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. These days we've been accustomed to video doorbells and the security they provide for the entrance to our homes. Well, here's a solution for those spots outside that don't have a doorbell, but you still want to see what's going on. The Wyze Outdoor Camera delivers fast, clear, and live stream footage directly to your smartphone via the Wyze app, day or night. With motion and sound detection, you can receive an alert anytime it detects sound and motion, and view it up to 14 days of saved alert videos for free. There's two-way audio, offline video recording, and because it's weather resistant and battery powered, you can put it literally anywhere without having to run wires. Think about all the uses you may have for something like this. Plus, the Wyze app allows you to manage and view multiple cameras and share your cameras with other users. Now, with its small size and flexible 3-axis design, the Wyze Outdoor can go anywhere you need it. For more information on this unique product, you can drop by Home Depot or homedepot.com. All right, let's go to Illinois. Derek is on the line right now. Derek, welcome to the Today's Homeowner Radio Show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's see if we can help you with this bathroom situation you have.
Yeah, I've got a double vanity and a big beveled edge mirror. And I've noticed that, that's happened for a while now. It's almost like a film or something. It's like blackish gray, kind of seems like growing, or so to speak. And I'm thinking, at first I thought, well, is the reflective just kind of flaking off the mirror? But there's never anything on the counter. I tried taking my fingernail to see if I could flake off. Like, nothing. It's all nice and smooth. And I sent you all a picture. And when you look behind the faucet, you can see the reflection. So I'm thinking, well, maybe it's just something that's on there. The wife uses the typical glass cleaner, Cinch, Windex, or Amway stuff, whatnot, and nothing seems to be coming off. And almost starting to think, well, maybe I ought to try TSP. But so then I got on the YouTube and started kind of looking, trying to figure out what it is. And I thought, well, is this what's it called, desilvering or something like that? And I don't know exactly what this is, and I don't want to have to buy a new mirror. I know there's like a resilvering type kit that you just kind of peel in place.
Well, we certainly have seen this quite a bit in bathrooms that I've remodeled over the years, and generally it is a desilvering, especially when you see it right down on top of your backsplash, like I noticed in the photos there. And it's kind of frustrating because you hate for just 1% of the mirror to dictate the need to completely replace it. But I'll tell you, Derek, what I've done before, and turns out turning something really unpleasant looking into something awesome looking, and that's actually installing trim around the mirror. Now, you're going to have to replace this mirror at some point, but if you take trim or either 1-by material, I've even done it with 1-bys and put little rosettes in the corner to create a framed mirror, and you can glue that wood, go ahead and prime and paint it, get it looking good, and glue it right over the mirror and the rosettes, or you can use traditional colonial trim or other kind just to create a picture frame around it. That's one way to take care of it. But Joe, on the repair of desilvering and everything, I've never really tried that, or I'm not sure I've even heard of that. How about you?
Yeah, the problem with desilvering, Derek, is you have to take the mirror off the wall. If you're going to do that, you might as well just replace it. But I agree with Dan. I agree with Danny. The simplest option is just to put a frame around it. You can, if you want to match with the trim in the room, take the casings that you have around your windows and doors, if it's wide enough, and just put that on. And I'd use trim that's wider. If you have look like you have about 2 inches of black staining behind it, I would make it at least 3 inches, because this may continue. And I wonder, since it's only about on the bottom, if the cleaning solution is coming behind the mirror and somehow affecting the silver on the back. That's another thing.
Now, what exactly is desilvering? What causes it, and how does one prevent it?
Well, I'm not sure how you can prevent it, unless if it's being caused. I mean, old mirrors, really like antique mirrors, it happens because it just doesn't last forever. The silvering process wasn't as sophisticated as is now, and they probably used real silver. And right now, I don't know if they're using real silver, but I'm not really sure why it happens. But if it is happening because of it's a response to any kind of cleaning agent, then that might explain why it's happening. But certainly putting a frame around it would be the simplest thing.
Now, wouldn't that, you put a frame around it, all you're doing is just covering up. Eventually,
that's correct.
Wouldn't that just kind of keep on growing and then end up coming through the frame as it grows, so to speak?
It might, but that's why I said use the frame a little wider. But then if that happens, then you're back to where you are now, and the other option is just remove the mirror and replace it with a new one. Or have it resilvered, but it'd probably be cheaper to get a new one.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, I thank you very much.
Here's something I want to share with you from our friends at Exmark. If you're thinking of adding some outdoor living space with a patio and you plan on doing it yourself, you may be thinking about using pavers. Very, very common. They're a great way for homeowners to add outdoor living space because the tools and skills required are easy to access than maybe some of the ones that are required for pouring a large concrete slab. And certainly pouring concrete is more expensive and a lot harder to do. And there's no denying that pavers have more character than a big flat piece of concrete. But if you're going to tackle laying pavers yourself, you need to do it the right way so that it lasts a long time. Now, unless you want to redo it again in a few seasons, first start with a good base. Once you dig out the space where the patio will sit, you need to add 3 to 6 inches of compactable crushed rock or concrete as a base material. Now, you can find this paver-based material with the pavers at the home center. Comes in easy-to-use bags, and you can spread it out. And then you'll want to rent a plate compactor to kind of compact it into a flat, solid surface. Then you'll be able to add, then you should add 1-inch layer of sand on top of that base material. This serves as the bed for the pavers. And once all the pavers have been laid, secure the perimeter of the patio with very easy to install plastic edging strips. Now, these are anchored into the ground with just long spikes, so they keep the blocks along the edge firmly in place. Now, these tips are brought to you by our friends at Exmark, the official mowers of the Backyard Life. Now, so for some more really great ideas and inspiration for your backyard and your outdoors, visit exmark.com/backyard. I've never seen anybody dissatisfied with putting pavers in the yard unless, as they mentioned there in the tip, that you don't do it right. And boy, when those things start shifting, you might as well give up the ship because you're going to have to redo the whole thing.
Give up the ship. Aye, aye, Captain. Yeah, in fact, just last week, I think we had a caller on the show that had a concrete patio, and she wanted to know if she could put pavers on top of it. And we said, yes, absolutely. In fact, her job was half done. We already had the base ready for the pavers.
Yeah, well, it certainly can be very easy. And I'll tell you, if you want a little inspiration, go to todayshomeowner.com and just put in our little search engine there, paver patios. We have dozens of videos and all kinds of unique ways to use pavers because, maybe taking that existing grill that you have that's sitting out there by itself and turning it into a built-in grill by simply removing the little shelf on each side of it and then building it around with pavers. You'll be amazed how easy, inexpensive, and how great it looks once it's done. Right now, we want to grab one of our recorded calls that came in on the Today's Homeowner hotline this week.
This is Charlie Burgess, Lynchburg, Virginia. I have a canvas awning that has a lot of mildew and mold on it. What do I need to spray on it to get rid of it without damaging the canvas?
All right. Well, Charlie, thanks for that call. And I can remind you, you can call us just like Charlie did anytime, 800-946 4420. Canvas awnings like that, I've dealt with that a lot, Joe, and boy, I'll see someone. First of all, you don't know how brittle a canvas awning is.
Right.
Now, if it's fairly new and fairly good shape, you can passively use a pressure washer to wash it off, but for the most part, you don't want a pressure washer on that fabric like that because it can pierce it pretty quickly. But I have used some soft bristled nylon brushes to do the top and the bottom of it. But soaking it down and then putting. What about TSP? Do you think that's too aggressive for a canvas awning?
Yeah, I think it might be. I mean, typically, you'd want like bleach and like maybe a cup of bleach and a quarter cup of liquid dish soap and a gallon of water and mix it up, spray it on, leave it for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Make sure it stays wet. That's important. Keep spraying this solution on. And then, as you said, with a long-handled, soft bristle nylon scrub brush, scrub it gently and repeat the process if you need to. Most of it's going to be surface dirt, I would think, and mildew that would come off. The bleach will kill the mold and mildew, and that would come off. I mean, you can use products, and Wet and Forget you could use. There's a company called Camco, CAMCO, and they make a cleaner specifically made for awnings. It's called Pro Strength Awning Cleaner, and it's $17 a gallon, but it's a concentrate, so 1 gallon makes, I think, like 30 or 32 gallons of cleaner, so you have plenty. But yeah, you do want to be a little gentle with it, especially if it's canvas, like true canvas, and it's old. Those do get brittle and the sun beats them up pretty well. So, but I would try the bleach, liquid soap, and gallon of water and see if that works. That would certainly kill the mold and mildew.
I think the key there is to be able to, let it sit a little bit. People get a little too quick there, but just to lightly mist it and get it lightly wet. And then apply as you mentioned, the bleach and the liquid dish soap and water, and just let it sit there and let that work and soak into the fabric a little bit. Makes it much easier when you do a little scrubbing and then to wash it off with a water hose. And like anything around the house, it's a lot easier if you do it more regular than wait until it becomes really an eyesore.
And if you're working from a ladder, which chances are you probably are, even if it's just a short ladder, just be really careful. That's why I suggest a long-handled scrub brush, so you're not going to be reaching so much. You can just, scrub it off. And if you only have a short-handle scrub brush, some of them have a hole in it that's threaded. Like I have one. I've never actually put it on a handle. I just use it for scrubbing surfaces that I can easily reach. But you just thread a handle take a handle off a push broom and thread it onto there.
Sure. That's exactly right. This is from Bob in Idaho. Hi, Danny. On a recent show, you discussed circulating pumps for water heaters that reduce the wait time for hot water to show up at the faucet. Can they be installed on existing hot water heaters where the hot water lines are within a finished wall? Hey, thanks so much, and I enjoy listening to your show every week in Idaho Falls, Idaho on 107.9. Hello to everybody there in Idaho Falls. And this is a very common question. I'm glad you asked this, Bob, because, right off the bat, I can tell you absolutely you can make a big difference by installing a circulation pump right at the water heater. One brand is Watts, W-A-T-T-S, and another one is Grumfos. And we have installed these quite a bit. And Joe, just being able to attach it right on top of an existing tanked water heater without having to get in the wall is pretty interesting, the way these things work and circulate that water through your pipes.
Yeah, because it does save a lot of time and energy in the end. But yeah, I mean, that's what they're designed for, to be mounted onto the water heater. So unless for some reason you don't have access to it, or it's hard to get to, or there's no headroom or something, I'm not sure why. But yeah, a plumber, get the right heating and air conditioning contractor in there, a plumber, they'll be able to hook this right up. And there are lots of different models of these pumps, by the way. So I would just ask the professional to see what he recommends. He'll probably recommend something he installs all the time and has had really good luck with.
Yeah, when you have a common problem like this, across the board, the manufacturers are pretty good about responding and trying to figure out how you can solve that kind of problem. The same goes for tankless water heaters. The one I installed in my new house has a circulation mode in that, and I'm really pleased with it. Even though my water heater is a long ways away from my master bathroom,
right?
You don't get instant water, but boy, you get it pretty quick. And it seems to. And instead of it being scalding hot, it's warm, and then it gets a little warmer and a little warmer, so you can control it, and nobody gets any scalding or anything along those lines.
Spring makes all things new, and the Home Depot makes all spring things possible. Start a garden, refinish a deck. Use our mobile app to put over 2 million products in the palm of your hand. Some ready for pickup in as little as 2 hours. Oh, and if you don't have the tools you need, our tool rental department does. Download our mobile app to get started. Bring on spring with innovative help from the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Well, let's see if we can help. John's on the line right now with a particular drainage problem. John, welcome to the show, and tell us what's happening at your house there.
Hey, Danny and Joe. So I live in a little bit of a wet area, and I've got some water holding in the backyard. And my predicament is I've got a long way from the backyard to the street, so it'd be difficult to slope a French drain. So I really wanted to get your guys' opinion on what some other options might be. I've looked into sump pumps and sump basins, but really just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on some solutions.
Sure, happy to, and it's something I've dealt with many, many times. And one of the things that you might want to do to make sure that you're seeing the elevation the way it actually is, because it can be so misleading sometimes when you think that there's not an elevation when there may be a considerable drop. So, renting a builder's level, a transit to set up, which is fairly easy, and to be able to look at the grade from your backyard to the front yard or to the curb, and to be able to see if there's any difference at all in there. And, of course, you always have the option of adding some dirt to your backyard to raise the elevation a little bit. I'm not talking about 6 inches, maybe, 2 or 3 inches in order to slope it properly. But I've had a lot of success in taking surface drains, taking a little basin that's built out of fiberglass that's, say, 12 inch by 12 inch by 12 inch, and positioning that in the problem area in your yard. Sometimes you have to use 2 of them. Then tie that together with 4-inch line, and not the perforated pipe. This would be solid pipe, whether it's a solid PVC or the corrugated type material. And you tie those together, and you want to make sure those drains are positioned where you're going to be able to gather that water when it does rain. Then you take that line and go straight to the street. Now, you can also rent one of the ditch witches, ditch diggers there that are amazing how quick they get from point A to point B. And, John, it'll almost work, or it will work, if it's virtually level with the backyard, because the hydrostatic pressure of that water going in that backyard and pushing it to the street is pretty effective. That's it's going to work very, very well. So that's what I would do, is verify that before. Now, Joe, what do you think about any type of sump pump or something like that? If John finds that it's just too flat of an area, or might even find that the street's even higher than the backyard. Have you, Joe? Have you seen people working successfully with putting a container underground, basically, that as soon as that water hits it, it pumps it out to the street? What do you think?
Yeah, John, they do make exterior grade sump pumps for this exact problem. Now we're not really sure whether you're a little high or a little low, and the sump pumps for outdoors are usually used when, your property's like at the bottom of a hill and the street's, 10 feet higher than your garage and the wall of water is running down, so it needs to be pumped out. But I would start with what Danny suggested, and if that drain is getting so much water that it just can't expel it fast enough, even through a 4-inch pipe, then you could put in a sump pit where that is and pump the water to a lower area, because water always, first of all, obviously it always goes downhill. Even if it's only pitched 1 inch, it'll go downhill, and it always wants to go from the wet area to the dry area. So once you get it moving, but yeah, you could use a sump pump. Now that's a more expensive option. It's another piece of equipment you have to maintain. You need electricity, and so there's a lot deal with, but it solves the problem. Absolutely. You have to be careful where you pump that water to. Most communities, you're not allowed to just dump it onto the street. It has to go into a storm drain or into a dry well or something. But I think because you're not like really at the bottom of a steep hill or at the top of a big hill or something like that, you might have a couple of more options. And you might not need something as extreme as an exterior grade sump pump, but that would solve the problem as far as moving water.
Okay. Well, I will certainly examine the slope of the backyard of the front yard and go from there, but that was very helpful. I appreciate it.
Hey, our pleasure, John. Best of luck on it. Want to dry it out so that you can really use that yard all summer long.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks so much for being with us here on today's Homeowner Radio, and hope you have a great weekend. Why not go get a sharpshooter shovel and go ahead and start digging?
Sharpshooter
the
shovel?
long pot, that are only about 5 or 6 inches wide, and the blade's about that long.
Really long blade.
Yeah.
Narrow.
That could. Long blade means long day at work. Boy, those are tough things to work with right there, no doubt. Hey, want to remind you about a brand new section on today's Homeowner.com brought to you by our friends at the Metal Roofing Alliance. You can find it at today'shomeowner.com/metal roofing. There you'll find a lot of great information and a little inspiration if you're considering a metal roof for your home. Metal roofs are just continue to be so popular these days. Matter of fact, about 10 years ago, metal roofs represented 4% of all of the roofs in the United States. Today, 25% of homes that roofs are being replaced now have metal roofs. And you can see why by going to today'shomeowner.com/metal roofing. You'll see what a great investment it is to boost your home's value. And I'll tell you what everybody's surprised at. You're thinking metal roofing right now, and you're thinking of something that, just a straight sheet, a ribbed panel. Well, you better take a look at it there. Again, today'shomeowner.com/metal roofing, because there's all kinds of different designs that are available. Some mimic the asphalt shingle, others mimic cedar shakes and the rich hand split type of cedar wood shakes. So there's a lot to see there. So I hope you'll drop by and check it out. One of our favorite parts of the whole show is right now when Joe provides us another simple solution to some common problems you may have around your home.
All right, Danny, I've been working down in the shop a lot lately, and this is a problem that, it seems like I'm always on my hands and knees looking for something that I've dropped. So here's how to use a shop-vac to find that part. And you're not going to just suck it up and then take off the top of the shop-vac and go, which I've done as well, rummage through all the debris and try to find that, whether it's a drop washer or nut or even a piece of jewelry or whatever. So what you do is you take a rubber band and on the end of the vacuum wand, take off the floor sweep, the wide piece. So you just have the wand itself, the round wand, and you secure a piece of cheesecloth or nylon stocking, pantyhose, something like that. And you secure it with a rubber band and let it overhang the end of the wand by 3 or 4 inches, then just sort of tuck it into the wand. And then all you're going to do is just vacuum up wherever you think you lost that part. And of course, what happens is the air will go straight through and anything you suck up will be trapped in the cheesecloth or the nylon stocking. And you'll be surprised that you can find almost anything as long as you have a rough idea of where it fell. And by the way, when you drop something, I don't know what law of the universe this applies to this, but when you drop something and it falls right between your feet, I usually start vacuuming about 10 feet behind me because I don't know where it goes, but it's never right between my feet.
Things
Bing,
bounce.
it bounces and starts rolling, and it's never where you think it is. So you may take a few minutes, but you can find it. And then, of course, it's easy to retrieve because it's just trapped in the very end of the wand.
Well, you think about things falling in your car as well.
Right.
In between the seats. I mean, that's just like, where did it go? You
ever drop a grape in your kitchen? You might as well move because you're never going to find that grape. I mean, you don't know where it goes, what it's going to morph into. But
that always is a challenge. But that same idea with the shop-vac or even a vacuum cleaner that has the long wand that you can put that over it can help a lot. But another great simple solution from my buddy Joe Trevini. You can find over 500 of these at today'shomeowner.com/simple solutions. Now it's time for our podcast question of the week, and we would love to get a question from you. You can do that by going to today'shomeowner.com/podcast. This came from Lance in Washington. First off, we love your show, and we watch it every Saturday. Now, of course, he's talking about the Today's Homeowner television show.
Yeah, if he's watching the radio show, that would be turning the volume up a little more. You get more information if you turn up the volume.
There you go. Exactly. That's we hope he's listening to the radio show as well. We have a skylight in our master bathroom. At the bottom of the skylight shaft, where it meets the room ceiling, we have stress cracks in the drywall. We patched them several times using a lot of different methods, and they always come back. It seems like the cracks come back as we change seasons, so I'm guessing the house is contracting and expanding as the weather changes. Any idea on how to permanently fix these cracks? Well, Lance, I'll tell you, that is a tough one, because when I've installed skylights before in building that shaft, because a lot of times it can be 1 foot, 3 foot, can be 8 foot sometimes. I've always put a lot of extra screws in and around that framing for this very reason, because a lot of times people are just putting in a few nails and thinking the drywall will hold everything together, and then that heat in the attic and then the cold in the attic is starting to move just a little, and it's going to pop that, it's going to cause that crack, it's going to cause the tape to start popping a little bit, and you're going to see it every single time you walk into that room. Joe, I guess the best thing here, if there's access in the attic, of course, he could put additional screws to try to minimize the expansion and contraction. But you can also put those long screws in from the bathroom side or from the living room, living area side. But that still doesn't guarantee that it's going to prevent the problem. And a lot of people used to say that the fiberglass mesh tape works better in most cases than the paper tape, but most of the professional drywall finishers I know say just the opposite. The paper tape is going to hold up a lot better, but it's a tough one when you got that expansion and contraction. What do you think about a little extra insulation around that area?
Yeah, maybe, but this problem's complicated because of the fact that it's in the master bathroom, so it's also dealing with heat and all the moisture and the hot steaminess that comes along with the master bathroom and the sun beating down. But it's no matter where this is, if you have a light shaft, which typically is tapered, right? It's smaller at the skylight. As it comes into the room, it's wider. Builders almost never, cracks often appear. Builders never seem to frame that as strong and as structurally as strong as they do any other part of the house when they build it. And they should, because they just figure it's just this shaft. It's not supporting any kind of weight. No one's standing on it. So they'll just put in a couple of 2x or 1x, and they don't nail them or screw them. But you have to put in a lot of framing and build it as strong as you possibly can for this exact reason. But in any case, I mean, I'm not telling them to pull off the sheetrock and reframe the whole shaft, which would be one option. But what I would do is clean away any of the cracks and the tape if you need to replace the tape. And there's a product we've mentioned on the air before called Goodbye Cracks. And it's like a can of spray paint, but what it sprays is clear liquid rubber, and it's meant specifically for this. And I think I haven't used it in a while, but I think what you do is you finish the joint, you put in the tape, you sand it, and then you spray this stuff on there. And you can paint over it, by the way. So then you can paint it. And what that does is it expands, because it's a thin rubber, it expands and contracts. So if it does crack, and I can tell you it will crack, most of it, and maybe all of it, if you're lucky, will be hidden behind this thin film of clear rubber, for lack of a better word. I'm not sure what it is, that you sprayed over the joint itself. That's about the best you can do. But again, this is a really tough place because of the thinness of the framing, or the not enough framing. Packing insulation around there certainly can't hurt. It would insulate a little more. But with the steam on the inside, I'm not sure if the insulation would help that much in this particular problem.
Well, just like Joe's wife Marla says all the time, you're so smart.
Can you say that louder? She's in the next room. I'm not sure she's ever uttered those words. She said, "You're such a smart," but she's not said similar.
Oh, similar.
I just hear the smart part.
It's like many of our wives say about us. You only hear what you want to hear. So there you go. Just hear.
And I usually say what? Yeah. I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. What was that?
Hey, we're so glad that you were able to be with us on this podcast. And if you have a question, please send it right now. todayshomeowner.com/podcast. And as always, we really appreciate the wonderful reviews, and to see more and more people downloading the Today's Homeowner podcast each week. It's something that we really appreciate and really, really thankful for. And if we can help you with any question, let us know. I'm Danny Lippert, along with my buddy Joe Truini. Thanks so much for listening to this Today's Homeowner podcast.